What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, real quick, I'm gonna try to do this as fast as I can and in depth as I can. There has been some adaptations made. There was some fittings that I couldn't find that was the actual fitting that I needed, but you can make the fitting. I don't like doing that, but it does work. It doesn't look as clean to me, but I want this brake system done. I'm tired of dealing with it. My line lock and my proportioning valve was supposed to be here Friday. One of them said Saturday, and now they're both pushed till Monday, and one of them's Tuesday. I don't know what the FedEx and UPS been dropping the ball here lately. The last 3 or 4 shipments. Either way, we're gonna start with the master cylinder, and I've already done a good little bit of work, I guess. We're not done yet, but we're on the way there. I really would like to be able to have gotten it done this weekend, but because my parts didn't come in, so I am running a line lock on this vehicle. I don't know that I'll use it. I may just trans brake, build boost. It's a built LS turbo, so I may just build boost and then turn it loose on 3, 4, 5, 8 pounds, whatever, and just let it do a rolling burnout and then stop. And hopefully I don't do nothing. I don't like that rolling half track and backing up. I mean, I'll go to the beams and I'll probably stop. I'll get lined up in the beams or whatever. But if I decided I want to try the line lock where you pump your brakes and you push the button and then you do your burnout, it keeps the wear and tear off of the rear brakes. So both of those ways will work. They both will save brake wear on the rear. So we're just, it's on there if I like to do it. If I don't like it, and you know what, if it gets in the way, I can take it off and replumb part of that line. But either way, we're going to start at the master cylinder and show you what I've got, what I've already learned. The only video that I could ever find that was in depth and helped me personally was Mr. Andrew Lavender, and hopefully he doesn't mind. I'm going to piggyback off kind of what he did, but I changed a few things that worked for my setup, or that were just personal preferences. His setup was perfect, spot on, beautiful. I haven't seen if he did another video, like a finished video of what his looked like. He did kind of what I'm doing now. I'm in the middle of putting it all together. So I don't know if you'll see the finished product, but his, you could tell, was gonna clean up really, really nice, really clean. I did a lot of stuff that he did. I changed some of the routing, i.e. I have a tube front end on the car, so I didn't have the stock routing area like he used. I don't have that anymore, so I changed my routing. But other than that, it's pretty much identical setup. Again, there was some adaptation with the fittings, and I'm running a line lock and a proportioning valve, which I didn't see a proportioning valve in his video. I'll try to explain how I'm gonna do mine. He may have put one on there. I'm running a proportioning valve for the rear only. If I don't like it, we'll change something later, but we're gonna see how I like it. See, start there. So with no further ado, let's jump to the master cylinder, and I'll show you kind of how that works laid out, and then we'll work through the car. All right, guys, so here's the master cylinder, and then this has no brake boost. I got rid of all the hydro boost. This is a no prep car, so I don't need it. This is a full manual conversion. Rear brakes, front brakes are the rear brakes are the front. So for my front brakes, remember, it's vice versa. It's reversed. The rear on here goes to the front on the car. The front on here goes to the back on the car. So we're gonna start with the front brakes, which is the rear port. I'm gonna do this exactly like Mr. Lavender did. I'm gonna come out of here, straight to the line lock here, mounted out of the line lock and through this hole right here. And then I'm gonna come in behind the shock tower, and we're gonna end up on this little fitting right here. So if you can't find the fitting that is actually threaded, see if I can get my phone to focus. If you can't find that fitting that is threaded into the driver's side, it is a 1/4 male by 3/16 female, and that is a adapter adapting that fitting to a T, because I couldn't find the T that had it made like that already. So I had to adapt a crush fitting and just take the crush fitting stuff off of it and just use the male on the inside. So that, again, the part that's threaded in, because the driver's side is a 1/4 from factory and the passenger side front
brake hose adapter, or the size for it is 3/16, or I'll show you in a minute. So that's a 3/16 female to a 1/4 male, and then you have the crush fitting adapter in the center, just to a triple female 3/16. What is it? 38 by 24 MPT or something like that. 3/8 by 24 MPT. So you can make that fitting if you have to, but they also make it from the factory where you don't have to adapt. But either way, back up here real quick. We're going to come out of here to the line lock, out of the line lock through this hole, maybe that hole, but probably this hole. We're going to route the line through here, and we're going to put it right into the top of this fitting right here. All right. Then we're going to come out of that fitting, and we're going to come out of the bottom down here, and we're going to run under the K-member where this line right here is running, which is actually the line that I'm talking about. I've already ran it to the other side, but this is the front brake line, and I'm going to come up, and then I'm going to come under, and I'm going to tee into the bottom of it right here. So that part of the system will be done, minus the line lock that has to come in the mail, and all I got to do is route it around from the T under here up to the end to the line lock, and then from the line lock to the back port. As far as the front port, you can do this a million different ways. I'm probably going to do the same thing. I'm going to come out of here, probably get a 90, which I already have. I'm going to get a 90 here, come back, run it to my proportioning valve. So, because remember, front, it goes to the rear brakes. Run it to the proportioning valve mounted on this surface. And they'll be line lock and the proportioning valve be right here together. Into the proportioning valve out through this hole again, maybe that hole, but this hole probably. And then back down here, and I'm going to follow close to this fitting, and we're going to go under this hose. This line will actually be under this rail. The other one will also come by that, and they will meet together and run under to the other side. Now let's go to the other side, and I'll show you where this line, which is the front brakes, I will show you what I've done on the other side, and then I'll catch up with the rear brakes on the other side as well. All right, so now that we're under the driver's side of the car, so here's the driver's side of the car. You can see right there, what I've done is I ran the line across the, right in front of the oil pan on the back side of the cross member bar, and then I ran a piece of 3/16 fuel line, and I ended up putting the line, the rubber, around the line, and where it contacted the metal, I just put a worm clamp around it, and it cannot move. It also holds the line still, so I can work on the other end without it flailing around. I put a little piece of rubber right there, so if it tries to make contact with that bar, I know it doesn't look like it's up far enough, but I promise you it is, because we're at an angle because of the fender well. But that rubber, if it tries to make contact, which you might see right there, it's off. But if it tries to make contact or whatever, I tried to do a worm clamp right there, what we call a geared worm clamp or a worm clamp. It just doesn't look good to me. It's not clean. The line is pretty rigid right here that comes on up. But just in case it tries to vibrate or anything, that rubber is pretty. I put a little bit of oil, and once you get it where you want it, if you run it back and forth real fast, it'll take the oil off and it'll get kind of hard to move. So it's not, you have to put some forward. You just about have to cut it off to get it to move. But you come on up, we're gonna back it out here. So here's where, this is the front side water pump. Here's the passenger side of the engine. And here is my 2 front end bar. This is a little dirty up under here, but all I did was just come up and teed right into the stock brake line there. And that is a 3/16 fitting. So 3/16 inlet, 3/8 by 24 MPT fitting. And that is just a regular steel brake line from Advanced Auto. So when we get to the rear brakes, this front part of the system, what you've seen on the other side, and this is where it ends. The front brakes are done. So once we run the rear brakes and come under here and come out where this line comes out, we will continue up this way, and right here, this is all stock wiring that has to be wired into the Holley HP. But this is the rear brakes, and this is where I pretty much copied Mr. Andrew Lavender as well. All I did was a triple female 3/8 24 MPT and then your 3/16 or whatever you want to call them fittings, just your normal fittings here. Brought the brake line thing. The only thing I'd say, and I know Mr. Andrew Lavender may not like it, and he probably wouldn't condone it, if you have this black brake line, if you have this same brake line on this car, the 99 to 04 Mustang, and you're trying to work under here, and you don't have anything that'll grind really good to get that coating off, I'm going to teach you a quick way to cheat, but do it at your own risk. Take a torch and just heat it real quick. You don't have to let it burn. You don't want it glowing red. This is really just like a rubberized or plasticized coating, and just real quick, a little heat to it, it'll get it real gummy, and you just take a rag and wipe it right off. You can see I did both of them like that, and it's perfectly fine. And I believe his setup is a little lower down, but I actually wanted to have this indention. See, I can stick my hand all the way back here behind it. So as I'm moving wrenches and stuff, I'll have plenty of room to work on that, and it's not touching the side. I mean, there's a gap back there behind it. I may run something around this to kind of protect it from vibrating. But for the most part, that is the rear. So the rear will come out of there, and it will run down through here, over to the other side, and then up into the proportioning valve to the master cylinder, and the brakes are done. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. That's just trying to do both sides on the driver's side, and then pause with you guys, and then come over to the passenger side. I think I said driver's side. So we did everything on the driver's side, and then once you run the lines, what you have to do on the passenger side. So it's not complicated at all. It's just a lot of fittings and a lot of trying to figure out how do you want it. You're running a custom brake setup minus the rear brake lines, which I'll probably do later. And when I do, I'll just take the T out and I'll run straight fittings to that line. I may leave the T there and then just run new lines off of the T, whichever. The brake lines, the car never had any brake issues, so it should be fine. But right now, we have this to do. I have to get under the car. So under the cross member here, which is actually, why is my arm doing that? It's this way. Check and make sure it's up under there where I want it. And then if you've seen the worm clamp or gear clamp where they had the rubber hose and I had the worm clamp around it, I'm gonna do the same thing where that one bends and starts up the side of the engine to come to this other T. I'm actually going to do the same thing there. So the bottom will be spaced off of that bar. It is in between the motor or the engine oil pan and the cross member tube. So if I was to wheelie a little bit or come down kind of hard, there's no way that the engine can hit it. It can't hit the ground. It can't be bent, scratched, or anything like that. Anywhere it's trying to even get close to contacting metal, you just get you a little piece of this hose like this right here, and you just cut off about yay long pieces. That way you can have it next to your contact point and leave a little extra to put your worm clamps on to secure the line and that. But don't hammer down on that worm clamp because you could actually collapse the brake line. I will say this steel is a little bit of a pain in the butt to deal with, this steel brake line, but it's a little more durable feeling to me. I've had like the copper, zinc, or whatever it is brake lines. Matter of fact, I got the whole roll. It's down there on the bottom. I just don't feel like digging it out. You can actually see the copper down there. But yeah, it bends extremely easy. Like if you can take your fingers and just a little bit of pressure, you'll bend hell out of it. You'll crimp it really easy. This right here is actually pretty durable. You got to either not know what you're doing at all, or you got to be trying to mess up, or just lackluster. You know, you're just in there just flailing around and bend it. But even when you're getting ready to crimp it, like bend it really bad and mess it up, it's still, you should know you shouldn't be doing it. So I like that about this, but it's a pain in the butt to do the tool on it and use the, Mr. Andrew Lavender did the same thing. I have a cheaper set of the cutters, but they have this little tool on the back right here. But if you try to do it, it wants to fall. It's just not worth it. So I ended up sticking with the pocket knife, which works wonders. If I can get it to come out, there it is. So the pocket knife, you get something with a real sharp tip, it works great. Just make sure you got some way just to file the tip back down. So I use my bench grinder. I turn it on real low and just take the burrs off.
So that's what I'm doing. I will eventually end up upgrading this whole brake system, probably running AN lines on it. But for right now, to get the car tested and tuning and run, again, this is version 1 of this car in its turbo form. We have a built LS engine, aluminum block here, and then I just scooped a 408 LQ9 engine. So yeah, that's probably what's going in the car. But right now, I'm just getting started in the no prep world, and this will be plenty. The brakes will work. If there's any problems with it, I'll end up upgrading what needs to be upgraded. The only thing that I'm dreading doing is getting under that dash, whoop, right there, under that master cylinder. And you actually have to pull the brake pedal out with this master cylinder. So if you're doing a manual, remember, it has to be 6-to-1 pedal ratio. They say 6 or 7, but 6 is like the number that everybody tries to go with. You have to take this is only for the 99 to 04 cars, as far as what I'm getting ready to say. You have to take the brake pedal out, and you're going to see where the old push rod for the Hydro Boost brakes, you're going to see that, and you're going to do what a lot of people's done, and it's going to say cut a hole in the brake rod that has got the foot pedal on it. So the foot pedal brake rod, the beam that runs up to under the dash, you're going to see that pivot point where that old rod used to be attached, and it's going to say cut 2 inches. And you're going to automatically think it means 2 inches below that rod connector. Wrong. It is the pivot point way up in the dash. So when you push the brakes, it pivots way up here. You want to cut a hole for the new rod, the master cylinder rod, 2 inches below the pivot point up here, and it'll be a big old thing around the bar up there. You can take it out and do it. You can do it in the car, whichever way, but that's what it's talking about. 2 inches from the pivot point at the top, not the pivot point for the old brake rod. Because I did it for a second. I was like, that is way too much of an angle to be. So then I caught it. I said, it's at the pivot point at the top. So just in case you're new and you're trying to learn stuff, the pivot point's the one at the top. It'll actually be between the old brake rod pivot point and the pivot point at the top. There'll be a hole in the center you're going to have to put there. Pretty much other than that, it's all pretty hopefully understandable. You can also, if you decide, you can run your proportioning valve on the passenger side of the car. You just have to plumb it in on that side. You would come off of the master cylinder, run however you want to run to get the line to this side, and then just put it in over here. But I want my line lock and my proportioning valve over here with the master cylinder. So all kind of brake related stuff is all in one corner of the car. I don't want to have to be dealing with a brake issue and be walking back and forth to the sides of the car trying to figure out what the hell's going on. So hopefully this video helped somebody. I tried to keep it as short as I could, as detailed as I could. If I've missed anything, if you have any questions, hit me up, let me know, comment, bring some subscribers when you come. If you don't subscribe. I need like 6 more followers and I can start going live. I am trying to get away from the old TikTok. So yeah, we actually started that today. My buddy came over today. Here's his car. He worked on it today. And I didn't show you guys because I haven't been on YouTube in a couple days. My TikTok crowd seen it. But I got my other Walboro Hellcat pump in. This is the Vision X fuel hat. So that will be getting ready to go in. I would have liked to have gotten that done today. That's the only thing out of all the parts that I ordered that showed up on time was the fuel pump. I went Saturday to take my wife to a doctor's appointment. And the place that is a speed shop was like 24 minutes away, so I didn't order the fuel lines, thinking he'll have PTFE 8 and 10 inch or AN lines. He actually did not have the AN lines or some of the fittings that I needed. So I'm going to order that later this week, next week, one day. But right now we are making headway. The brakes are underway, almost done, probably halfway, a little over halfway. Here is the new. Let me turn this around right quick. So here is the coolant system that I have on the car. If you follow the channel or anything, or on my TikTok, kind of an update. This was all gone. I went with the Earl's crossover tube. It just runs coolant this way. My radiator is at the aluminum shop still. So the aluminum shop got this part done. They got it to me. I put it on. Now I'm waiting on the radiator so I can put my other fitting on my hose here. But this is a big block water pump with LS adapters. And you can see that it had to be milled out by a milling machine
to make accommodations for the coolant line. So yeah, that's back on. I'm actually, you can see where I've kind of mocked up the bottom, just trying to figure out if I want to do a 90 here, a 90 over here. Like I did a 90 here. I'm gonna end up doing a straight here because the radiator mount is here, and then it sits in those two holes. So right about here is how long this top line should be, and it goes right over the charge pipe. So yeah, either way, car's coming along. We're getting stuff done. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off here, post this video, and jump back on these brakes. So y'all have a good night.